Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Friday. It's Daryl here. It is bright and freaking early, man. It's 3 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, this video, this is kind of the reason that I have this, I made this YouTube channel. I'm going to talk about Justin Timberlake, and I came across an article on TMZ, and the link will be right down below. And it's about why the fact that he's not saying that he's gonna, now that after he's been arrested with driving while intoxicated, that he hasn't said that he's going into like a rehab or an alcohol education class like a lot of stars do. And that's what this article is about. It's a short article, saying, well, Justin Timberlake hasn't come forward and said he's going into a rehab, alcohol rehab yet. Like this is what they're expecting from him. And I'll be honest with you guys, as soon as I saw this article, it made me angry. I've been clean and sober. You guys are probably getting tired of hearing this. Since October 23rd of 2006. I have not had a drink of alcohol in coming up on 18 years. Alcohol wasn't my drug of choice. I drank every day. I loved beer. I was one of those guys in high school and after high school in my 20s that had the shot glass collection and all the Bud paraphernalia, the Budweiser paraphernalia and all that. And I thought my life was going to be over. I was a hardcore crack and heroin addict. I used it every day. That's what it progressed to, from drinking when I was 14 to smoking pot when I was in my 14 to 20 to psychedelics to cocaine to crack to heroin. Yeah, that's where I've been. And when I initially I realized, even though that I didn't have a problem with alcohol, that I was going to have to quit everything. Because when I drink, my willpower goes down, and as soon as I drank, I knew that I would go for coke, and then I would, it would make me weak, and I knew if I was going to be successful, I was going to have to stop everything, and that's what I did. And let me tell you this: over the last 17 and a half years, I have not missed it one bit. I thought my life was going to be over. What am I going to do on Christmas? What am I going to do on New Year's? What am I going to do at parties? So I had not been intimate with a woman up until I was 40 years old. From the time I was 14 till the time I was 40, I had never been intimate with a woman without the help of alcohol, without the aid of alcohol, since the time I was 14 years old to the time I was 40. And let me tell you this, I'm not going to get too personal here, but it was everything has been so much better. Right now, the thought of having a drink, of having a mouthful of alcohol scares me. I like who I am right now. I like being in control. I don't see any reason. I can't imagine wanting to get intoxicated. To me, that scares me, that idea. And not just because I'm an addict, just because I like who I am at this point. I like the idea of being in control of my area and being in control of myself. Being here in the moment. It really doesn't have anything to do with going back to the drugs I was using. Okay, so when I came across this article, it made me angry. There's a very limited amount of space. I have been in and out of rehabs. Initially, when you don't have insurance, or if you have like state insurance or Medicare or anything like that, usually most people go right to the hospital. There's a detox ward, a mental health ward in most hospitals, and I'd say about 70% of hospitals. And that's where you go. And there's a very limited amount of beds. There's maybe 20 to 30 beds in most hospitals. And on any given week, especially when payday, right after payday rolls around, I did a video about this. If you're going to go into rehab, if you feel like you need rehab, go right before people get their, go right on the day that people get their checks, because that's when the fewest people go and check into rehab. This is something I've learned over 13 trips to rehab, because a lot of times it's hard to get a bed in these places. And I see a star like this, and I hear people, talking about him going into rehab. I don't think Justin Timberlake really needs rehab. I'm not a professional on this, but I think he had a drink. I think he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he got caught. I think you go to any seaside village around here, like any beach town around here, in June, July, and August, and you sit on the main corner in town at a stoplight, and at 1 a.m. or 12 at night. I would say probably 90% of people probably had some drink going, they're driving down the road. I think it's a pretty safe bet. And that's not a good thing. I'm not saying that's a good thing. Unfortunately, I think it's more common than we like to. It is a problem here. But here's the thing. I watched this video. This is why I don't think Justin Timberlake needs alcohol rehab. And the link will be right down below to this. I saw this amazing stage setup where the stage came out of the wall and Justin Timberlake is attached to it by hooks. And you have to watch the video. And he floats out over the stage and leans forward, and he's all held up by wires. And I'm thinking to myself, if this guy has a problem with alcohol, most people that have a problem with alcohol drink every day, and if he had any alcohol, there's no way in hell that he would be able to stand on this stage. The link's down below. It's an amazing video. I still can't. I've never seen anything like this in my 58 years of going to concerts. I mean, that's not a good reason to say that, I don't know Justin Timberlake. I don't know if he needs rehab, but I don't think he does. Let me tell you this. One time in one of my trips to rehab and detox at the local Bristol Hospital, Bristol, Connecticut, the Bristol Hospital, a man came in and he looked just like any average 40-year-old guy. I think it was during the winter and he had a flannel shirt on. He looked like an average mailman or a blue-collar worker, nice guy. He was well-spoken, friendly, everything. But he was an alcoholic, and sometimes you can't tell this. And the next day, or the day after, I think it was maybe 2 days later. It was 2 days later. I was walking in the hallway, and this is a lockdown unit. When you go in there, you stay in there. You cannot leave. Once you're in there, you have to have all sorts of doctor's signatures to get out, if you want to leave before without medical advice. It's a lockdown unit. And we walk in the hallway between meetings and stuff, and I'm walking by this guy's room, and I hear screaming on the floor on the ward. And this guy is losing it, and they have him attached to, I think it's like a 4-point bed or 4-point harness where his legs and his arms, and he's strapped down to the bed. And he's going through DTs, delirium tremens. And it was one of the most terrifying things I had ever seen. This guy just 2 days, it scared the hell out of me. Just 2 days before, he comes in, he's talking, he's friendly, he's just like me, just like people I know, well-spoken. And then he's basically insane 2 days later, strapped to a bed. And he looks up, and there's all doctors and orderlies around him trying to calm him down and giving him shots of heavy-duty sedatives. And he looks at me and he makes eye contact with me as I'm walking by the door, which was what I get for trying to get a sightseeing. And he makes eye contact with me and he starts screaming, "Get me out of here, help me, get me out of here." He starts screaming about helicopters landing on the roof, that people were invading and we're all gonna die, and this there's actually a helipad for, maybe, I didn't hear a helicopter come in, like, the medevac, the helicopters that fly over the highways and bring patients. There actually was one there, and I didn't know if he was talking about that. But he was obviously, not sane at that moment, and it was one of the most terrifying things I ever saw. Somebody like that needs detox, needs a rehab badly. That's somebody who needs it. The idea of Justin Timberlake going into a rehab, to me, it's gaming the system. It's just trying to look good in front of the judge. And what you're doing here, and what most people probably don't realize, not having been in these rehabs and detoxes, you're taking away a bed from somebody who really needs it. Justin Timberlake's got a lot of money, and he could just, he could pay his way into he could basically go into any, get any attention he wants, even if it's just to make a show for the judge, playing the system. That's what it looks like to me. If he were to do this, or for the stars that do this, that don't actually need alcohol treatment, I don't think he really does. I'm not a professional, but I don't think he really does. I think he made a bad choice. I think he made a bad choice, and he was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and and he tossed the dice, and he knew this could happen, and it did. That's my opinion on this. But when stars or people of wealth do this just to impress a judge, it's taking away a bed from somebody who really needs it. If he really wants to do something important for drunk driving and for alcoholism, he should pay for 20, 30, 50 people to go into rehab or detoxes to pay their way, or to get other people that really need it into these beds, get them in there. Or better yet, spend maybe 20 to 50 hours with a family that has lost a family member to drunk driving. Something like that. Spend 50 hours, like a work week, with a family, a volunteer family that has lost a member of their family to a drunk driver, and spend that time with them to really understand what he's risking when he takes that one drink. You know, even if it's just one drink, because it does impair your, it really does impair your driving. You just one drink. You know, now that I haven't drank for 17, 18 years, here's an interesting thing I didn't realize I was going to talk about. I've owned about over 20 cars. I've been driving for almost 35, 40 years, and I've owned 20, 25 cars. The last 2 cars I've had for a long period of time. Since I've been clean and sober, I bought these. I had one car. I had a Ford Fit. I have a Honda Fit and a Ford. I can't remember what it was called. These are the only 2 cars that I never got in an accident with. These are the only 2 cars that I actually was able to sell after I was finished with them. Like, I had them for 8 years and then I sold them. The 20 cars before that, I totaled or they got impounded. That says something about, you know, and I don't really consider myself, I don't consider myself an alcoholic per se. I'm an addict. I'm a recovering addict. You know, but it does influence. Just one drink really does influence, or one pill or whatever influences your driving abilities. I know that beyond a shadow of a doubt, you know, whether you want to admit it or not. And those are my thoughts. Okay, I want to say this quick. My next video, I recorded this 3 days ago, and it's unlike anything. I've been kind of hesitant to download it because it's unlike any way you've ever seen me. I'm not always happy, and I'm not always smiling. And I was at a really low point that I hit almost every day after losing my girlfriend and to COVID. And I'm going to download it today. And it's not like any you've ever seen me before. I'm kind of hesitant to download this because it's very personal. That'll be later today if I keep my will, if I keep my nerve about me. Have a good Friday.